Jasper County voters will decide whether or not to increase a sales tax funding the county's 911 center.
The Biden administration is trying to address the surge in gun violence nationwide. I'm Natalie Brand at the Department of Justice, where special strike forces could help stem the flow of guns to city streets.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Jasper County Emergency Services is asking for a sales tax increase to fund much-needed county-wide upgrades. This is KOAM News at 5. Now, the existing sales tax hasn't been updated since it was approved 27 years ago in 1994. The existing tax, as approved, is 1/10%. That was developed to bring 911 services to the county. Now they're asking for an increase to 0.25%. Officials say the increase is necessary to fund equipment upgrades and improve 911 response. Coming up tonight at 6, we'll cover the current funding situation and the need for an increase more in depth. Joplin residents will also be voting on a sales tax question in a couple of weeks. Voters are going to decide whether or not to renew a 1/4-cent sales tax for parks projects and stormwater improvements. And residents originally passed the initiative in 2001 and renewed it in 2011. It's now set to expire at the end of March next year.
There's a number of neighborhoods, 4 or 5 major neighborhood areas that have experienced street flooding and home flooding over the years, and now we're to the point where we can, with a passage of this, really improve the lives and the safety of the residents in those.
Now, that election will take place on August the 3rd. Another toasty day across the area, and I hear it's only going to get toastier. Doug Heddy joining us.
Yeah, heating up just a bit over the past couple days. We've been mainly warm across the region, but kind of hot for us today as our temps right around 90, 91 degrees during the afternoon. We've had a few random isolated showers popping up, but most of us has stayed dry. Most of the rain is off to our east across the eastern parts of Missouri down through Arkansas. And then, of course, out west with the monsoon moisture going. Temps right now, 90 Nevada, 88 in Cassville, 90 at Grand Lake, Pittsburgh sitting at 90, 92 in Neodesha, and then you factor in the humidity, you get the heat indices, about 95 to 100. So it is hot. It is very humid across the region. We'll slide back through the 90s, 80s, 70s, mid 70s for us tonight. Gets hotter. Next few days, we'll look at that just a bit.
All right. President Biden is imposing new sanctions on the Cuban regime after the violent crackdown on anti-government protesters earlier this month. There are reports about 500 people have been detained since the protests. In a statement, President Biden said, quote, "The Cuban people have the same right to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly as all people." This comes as a small group of boats with Cuban Americans on board left Miami to show support for people in their homeland. And the Biden administration continues its push to curb gun violence in American cities and towns. DOJ announced the creation of strike forces in major cities aimed at stopping illegal guns before they hit the streets. Reporter Natalie Brand has more details from Washington, D.C.
We saw a ton of people running down the street, ducking their heads. Terrifying.
Gunfire in a busy part of Washington, D.C. sent outdoor diners scrambling for safety and left 2 people hospitalized.
Put the guns down! Pick the kids up!
The day before, community members took to the streets calling for peace after 6-year-old Nia Courtney was shot and killed while walking with her mother near her home last Friday. D.C. is one of the cities nationwide reeling from a surge in gun violence.
I'm outraged, the chief is outraged, and the community should be outraged.
The nation's capital is also one of 5 cities where the Department of Justice has launched gun trafficking strike forces
to take down regional networks that are illegally trafficking guns into target cities.
A Justice Department official says the ATF is embedding agents or task force officers with more than 45 local homicide units in an attempt to help curb violent crime. Attorney General Merrick Garland met with law enforcement officers in his hometown of Chicago Friday morning.
I'm not here from Washington to tell you what to do. I'm here from Washington to find out what we can do to help you.
In Chicago, where gun violence has been an issue for many years, Pastor Ira Ackrey says his city needs all the help it can get.
It's a travesty. It's a state of emergency. Nobody has declared it, but it's an undeclared state of emergency if you talk to people who are down here on the ground.
In addition to law enforcement resources, Pastor Acri says neighborhoods need hope, opportunity, and jobs. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington, D.C.
President Biden has called on communities to use COVID-19 relief money to help fund community policing efforts. Firefighters today declared the end of their search for bodies at the site of a collapsed Florida condo building, concluding a month of painstaking work removing layers of dangerous debris that were once piled several stories high. The June 24th collapse in Surfside killed 97 people, with at least one more missing person yet to be identified. The site has been mostly swept flat and the rubble moved to a Miami warehouse. After decades of protest by Native Americans and others, Major League Baseball's team in Cleveland will retire its name, the Indians, after this season. The team announced in December that its first name change since 1915 was coming. After this season, the team is going to be the Cleveland Guardians. Still ahead, deciding where to work.
Hoping to work from home for the long term? I'm Laura Podesta in New York, talking to people who've made it work and saved a lot of money in the process.
And next in Health Watch, pediatricians say there has been a rise in type 2 diabetes among children during the pandemic. Topping today's Health Watch, the White House says it is exercising maximum flexibility by purchasing millions more doses of the Pfizer vaccine. The Biden administration is purchasing 200 million Pfizer vaccine doses to be delivered between this fall and spring. That's in case future studies show booster shots may be needed, and it includes millions of pediatric doses should the vaccine be approved for children under 12. Pediatricians are seeing a troubling trend during the pandemic. More children with severe cases of type 2 diabetes. Reporter Dania Bacchus has more.
17-year-old Andrew Aparicio has been making serious lifestyle changes after a big health scare last year.
The cramps and the fatigue I was feeling, I was really tired.
In May of 2020, he was hospitalized for a week and diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
I kind of saw it happening because I was not eating healthy. It was all over the place with my diet.
A new study presented at the American Diabetes Association meeting shows Andrew is not alone. Researchers compared hospitalizations at a Louisiana hospital from 2019 to 2020 and found cases and severity of type 2 diabetes in children increased significantly during the peak of the pandemic.
Many of children's well visits with their doctors have been canceled, so people who may have been caught on routine well child visits, those may have been missed until that the condition has progressed.
Dr. Lily Chow with Children's Hospital Los Angeles says stay-at-home orders may also play a role, since many kids may have been getting less physical activity, eating unhealthy, and spending more time on screens.
If you already are at risk of getting diabetes, putting all that extra weight on does not help.
Andrew says his diagnosis was a wake-up call. He's dropped more than 100 pounds through diet and exercise.
It's pretty crazy to think about how much I lost over the past year and how committed I've been ever since then, because I was really traumatized.
He's been able to cut back on his medications and is looking forward to starting his senior year of high school in better health. Dania Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Diabetes symptoms to look out for include increased fatigue, thirst, urination, and sudden unexplained weight loss. Well, kids who spend more time at the lunch table at school are more likely to eat their fruits and vegetables, according to a study from the University of Illinois. Now, researchers say fruits and vegetables may not be the first choice for students, and a seated lunchtime of 10 minutes or less is common. They say longer lunch periods would help low-income students who may not have resources to bring their own food and have to wait in lunch lines. Well, a new study raises the red flag about red meat. Researchers warn eating beef, lamb, pork, and processed meats could lead to a higher risk of heart disease. The study cited processed meats like bacon, ham, or sausage as the worst offenders, raising the risk of coronary disease to 18% by eating 1 3/4 ounces. It rose 9% for those who ate the same portions of beef, lamb, and pork. The report examined data from a large number of studies, including research on over 1.4 million people over 30 years. And that's a look at today's health news. A little later, we meet a northeastern Oklahoma woman spreading positive messages through signs.
Plus, it looks like it's going to get even hotter as we go into the weekend. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it continues to get a little bit hotter across the region over the past couple days. Today, most of us about 90, 91 degrees during the afternoon. First time we've seen actual 90s in a couple weeks. So technically hot. We started into lower 70s and right around 90, 91 as we have gone through the afternoon hours. Temperatures, they're still up there, anywhere from 89, Stockton Lake. Neosho is sitting at 89. We have Miami at 90, 90 in Pittsburgh, Iola, hair cooler at 87 degrees, but you factor in the humidity and you get the wonderful heat indices, the way it actually feels outside. And most of us 95 upwards to 100 on the heat index scale, and that's going to continue to be a problem over the next few days. Looks good in Joplin. Light south wind, feels like 98. Relative humidity is sitting at 57%. Through the evening hours, we'll slide back through the 90s, 80s, 70s. Once again tonight, most of us down into the mid 70s for overnight lows. But not a lot going on here. We had a few random little tiny isolated showers that popped up earlier, but most of the action is out across central, southeastern parts of Missouri. And these are just scattered showers and thunderstorms. And then you got the monsoonal moisture out to the west across the Rockies, which happens every day this time of the year. And you can see this little spin out across eastern New Mexico, western parts of Texas, and that's what's kind of firing up these random little showers across the region. But besides that, it's pretty boring. It's just hot. It's humid. Mid 70s for us tonight. We heat up again tomorrow. Most of us will go into the mid 90s. Again, there's going to be a random isolated thunderstorm across the region. Most of you will stay dry. Let's look at your forecast for you. 72 to start, 89 by noon. Then a high temp at 94, so even hotter. South winds at about 5 to 10. Tomorrow night, could get a random thunderstorm in our southern counties, but most of us again will stay dry, and we heat up again as we head into Sunday afternoon. Mid 90s, and again, a few isolated thunderstorms. These may be a little bit more numerous on Sunday, also heading into Monday, but you can see our temperatures continue to climb over the next couple days. Heat indices also climbing. The way it's actually going to feel, about 100 for us tomorrow to 102. Much of the same on Sunday. Heat indices 100 to about 103 degrees. So if you are going to be outside, make sure you use the sunscreen and also drink plenty of fluids. Look at this trend continue. So here's Monday. Some scattered thunderstorms. We're in the 90s. We heat up again on Tuesday, mid 90s, maybe even upper 90s by the time we head into the middle part of next week. And this trend just continues over the next several days. Not a lot of action, at least rain-wise. 94 for us tomorrow, 96 on Sunday, 95 on Monday, 96, Tuesday, 98, Wednesday, 97 on Thursday. And if we look at the 10-day, it continues right into next weekend. 90 sticking around for quite some time.
Yeah, July's been pretty good to us, but boy, summer is really ramping up here.
It is.
Doug, thank you so much. Well, a woman in northeast Oklahoma is spreading positivity through signs set up through her community. Vanna King is an advocate for suicide prevention and PTSD awareness. She has been creating signs with positive messages written on them and putting them around Grove. Her work is part of a project she created called Stay.
You're loved. Like, if people vanish out of your life, let them. Please let them, and don't go chasing after it, because something amazing will find you, and that's a promise. You just gotta stay.
Vanna says she eventually wants the Stay project to grow beyond just northeast Oklahoma and to spread positivity across the country. Coming up, some of the world's busiest websites are back up after an outage yesterday, but first, we take time to honor a local veteran. Ed Buford served in the U.S. Army in 1944 and 45. The Lamar, Missouri native was serving at D-Day on Omaha Beach, and we salute Private First Class Ed Buford, 4-state hero. Topping Consumer Watch, thousands of major websites came back online this morning after a widespread outage. The glitch took down nearly 24,000 websites yesterday, including big names like FedEx, Amazon, and Google. It was apparently triggered by a bug at KOAM, which hosts websites on its network platform. The company told CBS News it installed a fix and that it was not the result of a cyber attack. Well, pay raises are on the way, according to a new Willis Towers Watson survey. Companies are planning to hand out bigger raises next year. The consulting firm says businesses are projecting average salary increases of 3% for 2022 versus the 2.7% people got this year. Some companies now have workers heading back to the office, but many would prefer to work from home permanently. Reporter Laura Podesta has advice about making it work for the long term.
I sort of think of you as the work from home guru. Do you think of yourself like that?
You know, I feel like it more and more these days.
Todd Miller has been working from home for 10 years. I interviewed him in 2017 and questioned how he stayed focused in his basement office with video games nearby and family upstairs.
A lot of people might not believe that you can actually be more productive at home. So how are you more productive?
It's it's a discipline. It's the way you dress. It's everything from the way you build your day to the way you dress to the way you treat things.
Today, millions are working from home. In a Bankrate survey, 48% said it gives them more family time, and 40% are getting more sleep. 57% say it's having a positive effect on personal finances.
They haven't had to buy as many new clothes. Maybe they save money on food because they're not buying a $10 or $15 sandwich out every day.
But analyst Ted Rossman says more than 1 in 5 people are concerned they won't receive a promotion or pay raise if they keep working from home.
I think some people worry that there's this kind of out of sight, out of mind thing going on where, especially if a lot of your coworkers are regularly in the office.
Has your career advanced since the last time we spoke to you, despite the fact you haven't been back in an office?
Absolutely. I mean, since we last spoke, I've switched companies, and then in my new company, I've switched positions.
Todd says he won't ever go back to a cubicle. And now with more jobs available than workers, he believes more employees have the leverage to ask for remote work. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
A May survey of 1,000 U.S. adults showed 39% would consider quitting if their employees weren't flexible about remote work. The poll was done by Morning Consult on behalf of Bloomberg News. The shoe company Crocs is dealing with a problem of what it's calling copycats. Crocs is accusing Walmart, Hobby Lobby, and a few other companies of copying their iconic shoe. Crocs filed 4 trademark infringement lawsuits against 20 companies, claiming they're violating its trademark and other intellectual properties. The company logged its best sales ever in 2020 as comfort seekers named the Croc the go-to shoe of the pandemic. We've got a final check of the forecast next. CBS Evening News is next. Then on the KOAM News at 6, a Jasper County man who pled guilty to statutory rape in 2016 is resentenced after the judge set aside his original plea agreement. Plus, we're going to have more on a sales tax question in Jasper County to increase funding for the 911 center. And we'll take a trip through the historic Fort Scott driving tour in the latest edition of our staycation series. So stay with us for CBS Evening News, KOAM News at 6. Doug Heddy joining us. Another toasty, hot, miserable, muggy, humid.
Yeah, it's going to stay that way, at least over the next several days. We are going to go all the way up to about 94 tomorrow, 96 on Sunday, plus our heat indices kind of in that 100 to 105 degree range as we go through the entire weekend. And we are going to get a few isolated little pop-up showers, especially on Sunday, and those chances continue through next week, but really just kind of hot and humid.
Summer really letting us know it is summertime.
Yeah, definitely.
Doug, thank you so much. That's our time for now. CBS Evening News is up next. We'll be back here at 6, and thanks for making us part of your night.